Well, good morning, friends. Welcome back to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is part two of our series, The Teachings of Sowell, Williams, and Douglas. In part one, we walked with Thomas Sowell, the master of economic clarity, who taught us that incentives, trade-offs, and scarcity matters. Today, we're with Walter E. Williams, Sowell's intellectual brother, a man whose voice was fearless, funny, and free. Williams didn't just teach economics at George Mason University. He taught Americans what liberty means, why government isn't the answer, and why personal responsibility is the only road to freedom. Williams once said this. He said, prior to capitalism, the way that people amassed wealth was by looting and plundering and enslaving their fellow man. Capitalism made it possible to become wealthy by serving your fellow man. That's the heartbeat of today's lesson: liberty, responsibility, and service. Walter E. Williams was born in 1936 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He grew up poor, raised by his mom in the projects. He knew the grind of poverty, and he also knew the sting of racism. He also knew that no amount of government handouts could replace grit, work, and responsibility. After high school, he was drafted into the Army. And even there, he didn't back down. When he saw discrimination, he wrote letters to his superiors, all the way up to President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, demanding equal treatment. Williams wasn't afraid to speak truth to power. The boldness followed him through his life. He earned degrees in economics, became a professor, and eventually syndicated columnist across America. The first time that I heard him speak personally was he was one of the few guest hosts on the Rush Limbaugh show. His classroom, George Mason University. His pulpit, every lecture hall, every column, and even every radio mic. But Williams never lectured like an ivory tower academic. He talked plain. He joked. He used everyday examples to explain why freedom works. For Williams, liberty wasn't a political slogan. It was sacred. He said this: if we buy into the notion that the government should take care of us from the cradle to the grave, we will soon find ourselves in a grave with no liberty. Williams believed government had one job: to protect rights, not to run lives. Anything more led to tyranny, even if it was dressed up as compassion. Take Social Security. Williams blasted it as a forced Ponzi scheme. He argued that if Black men had been allowed to invest their own money instead of paying into a government system, their families would have built wealth instead of watching benefits evaporate when a worker died young. To Williams, the welfare state was not generosity. It was chains. He wrote this: the welfare state has done to Black Americans what slavery could not do. And that was to destroy the Black family. And that's hard truth. But Williams didn't flinch from it. He saw government dependency as modern bondage. He wanted his people, all people, free. Walter E. Williams taught that freedom and responsibility are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. He said this: nothing in our Constitution suggests that government is a grantor of rights. Instead, government is a protector of rights. So, if rights come from God, not government, then the individual has a duty to live responsibly. That meant owning your choices, owning your failures, and owning your successes. He mocked the culture of excuses. When students tried to claim discrimination or poverty as reasons for their failure, he pushed back. He said, "You have choices. You have agency. You are not a victim unless you surrender to victimhood." Now, that message wasn't always popular, but it was always liberating. Like Sowell, Williams had a gift for stripping economics down to common sense. On minimum wage, he said this: if a person cannot find a job paying the minimum wage, then they are unemployed. The true minimum wage is zero. On the concept of redistribution, we heard Barack Obama tell Joe the plumber, things work a little better when you spread the money around, right? Remember? On redistribution, this is what he said. This is what Williams said. I can't think of a single thing that the government does that I can do better than keeping my own money. Williams on taxation was absolutely ruthless. The government is the only institution that can take a valuable commodity like paper and slap some ink on it and make it worthless. Williams didn't just teach theory, he taught cause and effect. Raise taxes, get less growth. Subsidize irresponsibility, you get more irresponsibility. If you expand government, you shrink freedom. That's the truth. No spin, no illusions. Now, Williams didn't shy away from race, but he refused to let it be a crutch. He was clear. Yes, racism exists, but blaming racism for every outcome was both dishonest and destructive. He wrote this: racism and bigotry may be a fact in life, but they do not explain all of the problems facing Black people, because many are self-inflicted. Now, that message took courage, and it still does, because it means telling people uncomfortable truths on, on broken families, on failing schools, on crime, and dependency weren't caused by slavery ghosts, but by bad policies, bad incentives, and bad choices. Williams believed the real solution wasn't more government programs, but more freedom. The freedom to educate your kids as you choose, to work without government barriers, to live without politicians micromanaging your life. He carried that truth to the end of his life in 2020, leaving behind a legacy of courage, clarity, and conviction. And this is why Walter E. Williams matters today, because everything he warned us about has only gotten worse. The welfare state is bigger. And have you noticed? Personal responsibility is even rarer. Victimhood culture is louder. And liberty is under siege. And yet, Williams' voice still cuts through. Liberty is non-negotiable. Responsibility is not optional. And freedom is worth the fight. If Sowell gave us the logic of economics, William gave us the fire of liberty. Together, they arm us with clarity and courage. Hey, folks, this episode of the Morning Report is brought to you by 7 Weeks Coffee. Pro-life coffee supporting life with every purchase. And by viewers like you at Patreon. When you support us, you support independent conservative media. Thank you so much. Walter E. Williams didn't sugarcoat. He didn't pander. He didn't bow. He stood tall and said what needed to be said. Liberty is sacred. Government is dangerous. And responsibility is yours. His life is proof that a poor kid from Philly can rise to greatness. Not through handouts, not through excuses, but through faith in freedom and personal grit. That's why his teachings matter. And that's why we honor him. Next time, in part 3, we close this series with Frederick Douglass, the great defender of freedom whose voice still thunders across the centuries. Until then, I'm Willie Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. Till we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, don't take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.